Unveiled in 1952, its dramatic delta wing, sleek airframe design, and tall single-tail fin captured viewers' imaginations, revealing a new step toward nuclear-age futurism. This was the British Avro Vulcan strategic bomber, designed to deliver a devastating nuclear blow over Moscow if the unthinkable ever happened. Seemingly plucked out of a sci-fi story, the Vulcan soon became the star of many action films and TV shows for its mesmerizing design and imposing presence. It wasn't just visually striking. This movie star overwhelmed all senses. When pushed to its limits, its engines produced a distinctive and haunting cry known as the Vulcan Howl, a sound that commanded dominance in the vast expanses of the sky. After 30 years of waiting, already near the end of its service life, the Vulcan was called up for action in the Falklands, and it had something to prove. The British Avro Vulcan took to the skies in 1952, captivating hearts with its futuristic design. Today, it's our turn to be captivated by the past, and World of Warships provides us with the opportunity to experience it in all its glory. Crafted with incredible historical accuracy from the original blueprints, users can select their own fleet and engage in battles across more than 40 different maps with dynamic weather. With World of Warships weekly updates and unexpected challenges, there's so much to do that we can barely keep up. This month, brace yourselves for a recently unleashed naval onslaught, 12 new ships, and exclusive in-game missions featuring epic collaborations with Godzilla, Kong, Popeye, Megadeth, and Azure Lane. The best part, World of Warships is more than a game. It's a community. Dive into lively discussions, thrilling tournaments, and endless engagement. And if you're yearning for a perfect blend of action and strategy, there's no need to search elsewhere. Take a well-deserved break and join millions in the ultimate naval adventure. If you're a new recruit, we've got something for you. Use the code HPPYNWYR2024 in the link in the description to receive a huge starter pack, including a free ship, 300 doubloons, 1 million credits, 7 days of premium account time, 3 Santa crates, and more in-game cosmetics to deck out your ships. No limitations. Play on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, or your phone. World of Warships meets you wherever you are. In the tense aftermath of World War II, as the chill of the Cold War descended upon the world, the corridors of Whitehall buzzed with urgency and anxiousness. The atomic age had dawned, and Britain, in a desperate bid to maintain her grip on global dominance, embarked on a top-secret mission, Project Vulcan. It was 1947 when the clandestine file, codenamed B-3546, landed on the desks of a select few in the Air Ministry. The order was simple yet audacious: commission a jet bomber capable of delivering Britain's atomic wrath to the very heart of the Soviet Union. The RAF needed a bomber weighing no more than 100,000 pounds and capable of carrying a 10,000-pound bomb load for 3,350 nautical miles while cruising at 50,000 feet at 500 knots. The high-altitude capabilities were essential to elude Soviet air defenses. Since the RAF's primary bombers at the time were the piston-engine Avro Lancaster and its descendant, the Lincoln, that was a pretty tall order. As part of the grand strategy, the V-Bomber Initiative was born. A triad of airborne titans was outlined from that very moment. The Vickers Valiant, with its overwhelming firepower, the Handley Page Victor, sleek and deadly, and then there was the Avro Vulcan, the dark horse envisioned by the genius mind of Roy Chadwick. But when Chadwick met an untimely death in a mysterious plane crash, the strategic bomber's future was uncertain. With no prior experience in delta wing flight, Avro took a leap of faith by planning 2 experimental aircraft based on the original design. The bomber's first foray into the skies was christened the Vulcan B-1. This original production model sported a more pure delta wing, characterized by a straighter leading edge than its successors. The B-1 wasn't just for show. It was primed and ready to carry the Blue Danube atomic bomb. But as weapons technology boomed, the B-1 evolved to bear other nuclear payloads. However, as the 50s rolled on, these early V-bombers hit a snag. The shifting sands of Soviet capabilities, especially their cutting-edge air defense systems, forced the RAF to rethink its approach, ensuring their crews could still hit the mark. To outfox the Soviet radars, RAF bombers took the low road, opting for low-altitude, high-speed routes. The rationale being that if they flew under the radar, even the most sophisticated SAMs would be left shooting in the dark. To rise to this challenge, A.V. Rowan Company threw their hat in the ring with the most radical jet bomber design yet. Drawing a page from German research, Avro's engineers broke the mold. High-speed operations necessitated a swept wing design, but the targeted wing loading would have meant a lengthy and structurally intricate wing. But then, the designers had a light bulb moment. They increased the wing area by filling the gap between the trailing edge of the swept wings and the fuselage. This brainchild morphed into a flying wing design, precluding the need for a conventional tail. The wing's trailing edge housed control surfaces, dubbed elevons, pulling double duty as both elevators and ailerons. All roads led to the formidable B-2 Vulcan. The UK's elite trio of bombers earned the moniker of the V-Force, akin to America's SAC. At its zenith in 1962, the V-Force boasted 22 operational squadrons. A slice of each squadron, at times numbering 4 aircraft, stood on nuclear-armed alert at RAF bases, ever ready for a call to arms that everyone prayed would never come. Given the Vulcan's groundbreaking design, Avro decided to hedge its bets by constructing several single-seat concept demonstrators, nicknamed the Type 707. These prototypes employed a single turbojet and leaned heavily on existing components to reduce costs. For instance, the nose wheel and cockpit canopy were borrowed straight from the Gloucester Meteor fighter. By 1949, the maiden 707 took to the skies, soaring gracefully despite a notable hiccup, a disconcerting vibration at high speeds due to the wing's straight leading edge. To solve this, the designers added a kink in the wing's outboard third, which rectified this issue and became a hallmark of the full-blown Vulcan. The first Vulcan prototype was pieced together with the 707 trials in full swing. Come August 1952, the bird, donning the serial number VX770, took its bow. Though not battle-ready, this initial Vulcan wore many hats, from running aerodynamic demos to undergoing high-speed and high-altitude tests. Originally sporting a lone pilot seat, by year's end another was shoehorned in, resulting in a cockpit that felt like squeezing into a phone booth, a common grouse among Vulcan teams. Pilots contorted into their seats and grabbed fighter-esque joysticks to guide this unexpectedly agile behemoth. The B-2 version's throttles, governing 4 Rolls-Royce Olympus 201 and later 301 turbojets, nestled between the pilots. And for a bird with a wingspan tipping 100 feet, the Vulcan could pull off a roll with aplomb during air shows, always a hit with the crowd. An RAF Vulcan vet, John Reeve, mused, quote, "Up high, she was a dream to fly. You had to dance differently with her. Loads of rudder, barely any aileron. But with her low wing loading, she could outpace all the UK fighters, especially if you took cues from our radar threat receivers." But the Vulcan, like its V-bomber siblings, had a quirk. Only the pilots got ejection seats. The other 3 crew members, snugly seated behind the pilots, had the unenviable task of bailing through the same hatch they clambered in from. One problem all Vulcan crew members shared was atrocious visibility. The pilots had only narrow, sloping windows to the front that left them essentially blind for 30 yards directly ahead, in addition to a circular window on each side, configured so that, unless they contorted themselves like a tortoise with its head forward, they couldn't even see their own wingtips. The rear-facing crewmen had no view, save that gained from a periscope the AEO could use to scan the jet's underside. As Reeves said, quote, "Flying the Vulcan has been compared to flying a postbox by looking through the letter slit." Though designed with a sobering purpose, the Vulcan never had to fulfill its primary role as a nuclear strategic bomber. Time passed it by, and the aging warbird never took active command. Yet its striking, almost otherworldly appearance ensured it remained a showstopper in the world of entertainment. The Vulcan's sleek and menacing silhouette made it a hot commodity for films and TV shows. Its silver screen zenith was undeniably the 1965 James Bond film Thunderball. Here, the plot thickens around a hijacked Vulcan bomber loaded with 2 atomic bombs. Bond, epitomized by Sean Connery, embarks on a quest to reclaim the pilfered warheads. This unique aviation marvel also graced numerous TV screens, particularly in British military dramas and Cold War suspense thrillers. Though its combat record was blank, the Vulcan wasn't just a prop. It held its own as a linchpin in Britain's nuclear deterrent strategy. Time and again in training skirmishes, the aging Vulcan flexed its muscles, proving it was no pushover. Reeve conceded that the aircraft's colossal frame and trail of smoke made it an easy target in broad daylight, but he finally recounted one nocturnal face-off against a McDonnell Douglas F-4 where the Vulcan played hard to get, quote, "Over a span of 40 minutes, he couldn't catch us. We might have tipped the scales at 130,000 pounds, but our Olympus engines packed a punch with 80,000 pounds of thrust, a power-to-weight ratio many contemporary fighters couldn't match. From 1,000 feet at 375 knots, I'd soar to 20,000 feet in under a minute. Though I'd slow down to 200 knots, the fighter just couldn't keep tabs on us. After 3 attempts, he never managed to lock onto us." Always earmarked for replacement by the next big thing, it perpetually defied obsolescence. However, as the 80s loomed, fate had other plans, and the mighty bomber was finally thrown into the heat of battle. In April 1982, conflict reached the remote Falkland Islands, a British overseas territory, when Argentina staked its claim in the region. Located a mere 300 miles off Argentina's coastline, this territorial spat prompted the UK to dispatch a significant amphibious task force across 8,000 miles to reclaim what they saw as rightfully theirs. As part of their retaliatory gambit, the British unfurled a series of conventional bombing sorties, codenamed Black Buck. These raids, launched from Ascension Island, the nearest British stronghold viable for Vulcan maneuvers, wasn't just about military muscle. They were a political jab, a statement of intent. Targeting radar stations, communication hubs, and notably the Port Stanley airfield, which was home to some of Argentina's essential fixed-wing attack aircraft, these daring operations were logistically Herculean. The extremely long-distance raids required 11 Victor tankers to refuel just one Vulcan bomber, but given that it was an 8-hour flight to the Falklands, this complex plan was the only option. But thanks to the sheer audacity and sharp wits of the British crews, these 8,000-mile round trips not only achieved success, but were executed without losing a single aircraft. One raid's crowning achievement was a surgical strike at the heart of Port Stanley's runway. This obliterated stretch of tarmac forced Argentine jets to launch their counterattacks from mainland bases, hamstrung by the limitations of operating at their peak ranges and giving Britain a welcome advantage in the short conflict. The move had been an effective show of power. In addition to succeeding in destroying their objectives, the raids were a message to Argentina. Britain had some of the most advanced and capable weaponry in the world, and it was not afraid to use it. Ironically, even before these South Atlantic skirmishes, the Vulcan, the poster child of Britain's airborne nuclear capabilities, was already being nudged into retirement, making way for nuclear-armed submarines. The once majestic bird found its wings clipped as it transitioned to the role of a K-2 tanker. But even this role lasted barely 2 years, and the last operational Vulcan squadron was disbanded in 1984. Thank you to World of Warships for sponsoring our video. Remember to seize our exclusive offer for new viewers by clicking the link in the description below and applying the code HPPYNWYR2024. Unlock a realm of possibilities and ensure you don't overlook the constant stream of ever-evolving missions.